when we see also how Trudeau is handling all of this, it is very, very alarming. Now, Ron, Valent. Ron, I just want to call you Ron Valiant because you say so many wonderful things and you are a valiant speaker in Canada
Sure.
about what's going on. And I appreciate that you have been extremely bold and you have delivered a lot of scientific information as well as good common sense to a lot of people. And you do that on your broadcast as well. And so, Ron, thanks for being here today. So you've been
Okay.
following a lot of things, Ron. You did a recent broadcast on the emergency broadcast, and that was just phenomenal information. What can you tell us?
That was about UNDRIP and what's going on in Canada right now, particularly in BC. UNDRIP is United Nations Declarations of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And I sent you a link there. It's section 26 is the most alarming. It says that Aboriginals have the rights to all the lands, territories, and resources to which they have traditionally owned, occupied, or otherwise used. So the whole thing is the document is so open ended. And actually, during the election in 2019, that UNDRIP, there was a bill in the House, or actually it passed the House, it was in the Senate, that wanted to go ahead and implement UNDRIP all throughout Canada, but there was some brave senators who were holding it back because they know how open-ended this thing is. The reason why I went ahead and did the emergency broadcast, I called it, was that bill is now, and there's another bill reintroduced basically wanting to forward UNDRIP. The previous bill in 2019 got killed when the election was called. And it's interesting to note that it had gone through the House. The Conservatives, the Liberals, all of them, they all adopted UNDRIP. So if you're going to go vote Conservative, you're voting for UN globalism and UNDRIP. But anyhow, the reason that I made the message was because it had, in the throne speech, everyone missed it. And I recommend people go and watch the video I did on the throne speech, start at 2 minutes. In there, they talked about how they were going to go reintroduce a bill for UNDRIP. And no news organization caught it. No one caught a lot of things that were in that. So if you want to get the cutting edge, you want to go check
So
that
is this
video
the
out.
document? Is this the document here, the United Nations Declaration on
Yeah,
the Rights of Indigenous People?
yeah. Is that the website? Go, yeah.
Yep.
Scroll down to go down to number 26,
Okay.
and but
And
there's
so
other
this
ones
is
in
what
there.
you had highlighted.
Well, yes, this is what's going on, and it's so open ended, and the whole thing is a document doesn't even say what an Aboriginal is, and uh, and really, like we've always known them as Indians or Native Americans, right? And this word Aboriginal, that's a UN globalist word. Okay, there you had just had it there, yeah. So the peoples have the rights to the lands, territories, and resources that they have traditionally owned, occupied, or otherwise used or acquired. Now it's interesting that they say that they have the right to something that they previously owned or have traditionally owned, right? Uh, I don't know. When I go and sell something, I don't own it anymore. So it's all so open ended, and that's just yeah. It's not a long document actually. I recommend people just
Question.
go look it up and read it for themselves. Yeah. But yeah, so I made that broadcast, and that's going on right now. BC, 3 days after the federal election, they went ahead and adopted it. So right now in BC, everything's being carved up for the Aboriginals, and what they have to understand is that they're going under the UN, dictatorship if they go along with these things, as far as the various different bans. And if they didn't think that the Canadian government treated them very well over the years, they're in for a real shock with the UN globalism that they're going to be adhering to if they go with this.
Right. So, Ron, what do you think when we look at Agenda 21, Agenda 2030? What is the global plan as you've seen it? We've talked a lot about that, but some people still have no idea about those things. What do you see as the most concerning aspects of that?
Yeah, I guess one thing I'd back up a little bit and I'd say, in order to understand all the little things that are going on, like I listened to your in your broadcast and whatever, and you're trying to understand why it is that the seniors are not being treated well, why all of these things are going on. It doesn't make sense. Why are we forced to wear masks? Blah, 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 all this stuff, right? The thing that is most helpful is to step back and to see the globalist agenda in general. Now, back when Rio de Janeiro happened in 1992, I knew something dramatic was going to happen, but I didn't know what. But that's when UN Agenda 21 was laid out. And Brian Mulroney and the so-called conservatives signed on to it, and no one was a wiser in Canada, really. And then what happened when Stephen Harper got into power in 2008, he signed on to or adopted UN Agenda 21. And then in 2015, September 27th, they went ahead and they adopted UN Agenda 2030. Now, UN Agenda 21 is a United Nations agenda for the 21st century. Now, it's interesting that number 21, like if you remember before the COVID thing all happened, we had Event 201.
Yes.
That was okay. Now, what happens if you drop a zero out of 201? Because why would they call it 201? Just an observation. So now you got Event 21, right?
Okay.
And here we are in 2021. I think 2021 is going to be a dramatic year to move forward this whole globalist agenda. Now, that's just kind of a coincidence with numbers, I guess. But anyhow, the whole thing is that the conservatives, just like the liberals, are complicit in all of this. So what happened was with Stephen Harper and the Communist Party of Canada, that's what a lot of people call them now because they adopted this Communist Manifesto, which is UN Agenda 2030. Maybe scroll down to that graphic there of 2030. Now that's 17 points. And when you read it, on a surface level, it's like the ultimate political doublespeak. You know how it is that politicians make you, like even that clip he just played before me, it sounds like, oh, the government's all doing all this wonderful stuff, right?
Yes.
But it's doublespeak. And then with UN Agenda 2030, if you know what's really going on there, then it's basically the UN gaining total control over every single aspect of our lives. Now, just think of it. The whole engine that's driving everything right now is climate change, right? Mm-hmm. All the kids are being indoctrinated heavily on this. And to go against it is almost like, going against, a tsunami. But when you look at some of this stuff, like look at number 10, right? Reduced inequities. What they're saying in there is they want the rich nations poor, the poor nations richer, rich people poor people richer. That's what's going on right now, basically. With this whole lockdown measures that we're seeing, it's wiping out the middle class businesses. It's wiping out job opportunities, and it's cattle shooting all of us into dependency towards the government. And then the other thing is that we got the Global Compact on immigration or migration. That means that anyone can go ahead and come into Canada or another country, and they're a migrant. They bypass their immigration laws. They say, I'm here, and then we have to take care of them. That has to do with that number 10 there. And then so this is what's going on. There's Event 201. Yeah, take out the globe in the middle. You got Event 21. It's kind of funny. But so to see the general agenda of what's going on, then you can actually, when all of these little pieces come up, then you can kind of put it all into context. Basically,
when you realize that these people have done simulations, on a pandemic, they do it right before, ironically, we get hit with a pandemic. You have, right. You can find clues to that. Everybody seemed to have some awareness that something was coming, including Anthony Fauci saying there will be, a surprise for the president, for President Trump's, basically tenure, that there will be some sort of outbreak. And here we've had it. The only thing that I think they're truly surprised at, though, is that it has not reached the epic proportions that maybe some of their models were based on. And so that has not happened. But as you pointed out, it is being used as the opportunity. And Trudeau himself said this is an opportunity for the reset, to use what has gone on. And so as this Davos thing is going on, do you pay much attention to that?
I didn't really follow what they were saying, but I already kind of know what's going on. So,
right.
But like you just mentioned with Trudeau, that the pandemic has shown our vulnerabilities, and it's bringing us to a reset. But he also says to achieve UN Agenda 2030. that was, is to achieve it. So the Great Reset, all of these things are all planned out. That's, all of this is just theater. It's all the news, all the political puppetry talk or whatever. It's all theater to manipulate the population and to steer them into a certain direction. And that's where we're at now. Basically, where we're at is World War III. It's World War III done through complicit and corrupt politicians. It's through, you know, backroom deals. It's through the corporations. It's so multi-leveled, multifaceted, and multidimensional that it'd make your head spin. It's a worldwide mafia that is just astounding.
Well, that is exactly what it appears, and it was never so obvious, I guess, as what we just faced in seeing the shutdown of the conservative voice. This has been quite shocking. Did you see the point where basically Twitter and Facebook and these big, technocrats and left-wing media would sort of combine to silence everybody? Did you see that coming to such a degree as we've seen in this last week or so?
Uh, well, I suppose. I mean, yeah, I did actually. It started actually with Alex Jones when he got deplatformed a couple of years ago. But even before that, I kind of knew that, our voices would be silenced. And, but yeah, no, it's all part of the game. And we're, first they silence you, then they kill you, right? That's where it's going. I mean, it sounds, like draconian, but look what's going on. I mean,
So, what is the answer, Ron? I know that you're a man of faith. You also are looking at everything, and I have a lot of people writing me every day, and they say, what is the answer? What are we to do? And there is a part of me that feels that it's in not doing anything that we've actually gotten to this place. And so the only way is that we begin to be spokespeople in our places of influence. But unfortunately, now the price to pay is potentially a loss of your job if you dare to
yes.
speak truth. People are facing the ostracization, of
Mhm.
them socially, from family, from their workplace, social media shut down. And so now the
Yeah.
price to pay in order to speak out loud is something that is
Hi.
quite considerable.
It is, yes. And that's all a part of it, right? Because they have to shut down all voices of dissent. And that's where we're at. Right now, the society is being fractured. And it's made to be that if you go against a narrative, that you're actually putting other people in harm's way. And all of this has to do with the common good, our common home. That's why the environment issue with CO2 is a real big driving engine of everything because by our lifestyles, by the way we live or whatever, we're putting other people in harm's way. And now that video that you showed earlier, basically, what's her name there talking about, did you notice that she said climate justice?
Yes.
Now, whenever you hear these words, common and justice, reconciliation, there's a bunch of buzzwords. You know that it's all part of the narrative. So, climate justice, whenever they use the word justice, it means that big things are going to happen. It's not just some kind of small word there. So, the climate justice that's going to happen is that the nations that put out the CO2 are going to have to pay recompense and help out those who are suffering. And all those people in third world countries are going to have to come into the countries that are cold or whatever, that need to have a lot of energy to drive everything to keep things warm. They're going to come up here so that they can escape all the rising temperatures down in India or wherever it may be, right? It's just all a big con game. And really what's happening is they want to be able to destroy the capitalist West. That's what's going on at this point. And the whole lockdowns and shutdowns and everything, like even they're talking about restricting interprovincial travel. Can you imagine what that's going to do to BC? All the Albertans that go in the summertime over to BC to spend their money, it's just going to be devastating. It's all just It's all part of compartmentalizing, shutting us down from travel. It's basically like a Hunger Games type of scenario where you're going to be locked into your own little zone. Uh, all of these things are all part of the whole thing of bringing us to the point of the Great Reset, and then also to bring us into Agenda 2030, where you will own nothing and be happy. I know it sounds
Right.
crazy. That's why the whole over the decades it's been so hard to convince people of things because it's just so wild and outlandish. And I know my older brother, I worked on him for like 15 years, and he just yeah, I couldn't banging my head against the wall. And then finally what happened was 9/11, and he right away he says, no, there's no way those towers came down, like without it being a demolition. Those planes didn't take it down. And it's interesting that he actually talked to a first responder who was over at the Pentagon when that missile hit, or when the plane hit the pentagram there. Um, the first responder said, "I'd feel a lot better if we actually saw bodies and plane parts." So,
Hmm.
so anyhow, that woke up a lot of people. Mark Friesen is another one with 9/11. That woke up. He woke up and really got onto it big time. So people are beginning to see what's going on, and it's really nice to see. But the whole thing is that it's such a radical, outlandish thing that it just people have cognitive dissonance on, when you try and share this stuff with them. So
Right.
this whole thing with the Great Reset, that's what the big things that we have to deal with this year is further restrictions and lockdowns going interprovincial, and even to the point where you won't even be able to travel from city to city. Uh, that the Great Reset, that's a really big one. And then also this issue that we're going to have to deal with, vaccinations, and we won't be able to participate in society without those vaccinations.
Right. And
So,
I think that that is the line in the sand that is very concerning to people because they feel like they can handle a lot of different things, but I'm not sure that they're feeling good about the vaccinations and potentially that becoming a mandated thing. And everyone has been as patient as they can with respect to the face masks. But what does it say when people like Rex Murphy and others are Anthony Fury starting to talk about the lack of conversation that we're able to have? I believe that Rebel Media is seeing this in spades as they are discovering and putting things out there that are showing the corruption in the government. And then they, Kean Bexty had a couple of officers come to his home and basically alert him that the tweet that he's showing is really not appropriate. And he said, have I broken the law in any way? And they say no. But clearly, people from Ottawa are having the RCMP do their scare tactics on anyone who dares to begin exposing. And we know that the media won't expose anything. I have a lot of people now talking to me about Hunter Biden's laptop contents and the pictures, unfortunately, now that are out there. And you
yeah.
don't see anyone talking about these things. And it's not,
Oh, yeah.
the media will not cover real stories.
Oh, no. No, actually, I talked to a fellow who was in Vietnam, and they had like the Pentagon type of situation over there. And what was going down in Vietnam and what was being reported in the news was completely opposite most of the time. So that's back in the 70s, yeah, so that's where we're at. Um,
So it does go way
uh,
back. So when you see
oh,
the
yeah.
Great Reset, Ron, do you feel that we have imminent trouble coming to Canada from what Biden and Trudeau and some of the other Build Back Better bunch will be implementing globally and will come to Canada?
Yes, that's a very serious stuff. I sent a picture there of John Kerry, I think it is,
John Kerry?
where he
Let's see
basically
if we have
says
that.
that the Biden administration will be implementing, going along with the reset program. Yeah, there it is. He firmly declared that the Biden administration will support the Great Reset, and that the Great Reset will happen with greater speed and with greater intensity than a lot of people might imagine. one thing in war is that you want to come with tremendous speed and overwhelming force to beat your enemy, and that is going to come about. And that actually kind of lines up with really the most disturbing thing that I come across in 2020 was a supposed leaked liberal email from the steering committee member. Now, anyone could have wrote that. You could have wrote that. I could have wrote that, except for some things in there. One issue was this COVID-21. Now, you've been on this thing really heavy, like I have, ever since the beginning of it in January. Have you ever heard of a COVID-21 back in October last year?
No.
No.
Had you?
But in that, no,
I've
I
heard of
didn't.
it recently. I've heard the
Well, yeah.
COVID-21 recently being talked about.
Do you know that there's actually a movie that's made called COVID-21? I sent
No.
you a graphic. I sent you a
Okay.
graphic on that. Okay, now after that liberal email that I come across that, it might be in a different email, but
COVID-21. So
yeah,
that was a movie, you're saying?
yeah, a movie came out about a week after. I noticed it a week after this liberal leaked email talked about COVID-21. Now, if you're going to release a movie, you're going to have a year's preparation or two, and they're talking about COVID-21. Come on,
Right.
So anyhow, like no one knew about this COVID-21, and there it was in that leaked liberal email. But the more disturbing issue there was talking about the lockdowns, that you're going to have military checkpoints, and then you're going to have this whole thing of the economic crash. I did send some graphics on that too as well. But basically, that they were told that there's going to be an economic crisis in the world, which I've been waiting for I don't know 25 years or longer, 30. But there's 5 quadrillion of derivatives out there that could just crush everything. That's not the one, but that's a good one.
Uh,
COVID-19 will change capitalism forever.
yep.
Okay, and that is dealing with inclusive capitalism, and that's going on right now. The major corporations of the world are looking to the Pope to be their spiritual guide and being able to have a just and sustainable capitalism in the future. And yeah,
Do you know what I have here? I have the I think it's called COVID-21 lethal virus official UK trailer. Maybe I'll see
okay,
if I can get this up and see if we can put that in as well.
yeah,
Keep going,
yeah,
Ron.
yeah. Okay, so it's all an attack on us. It's World War III. It's full
Sure.
on uh, communist fascist takeover of the world. That's what's going on right now. And so, as far as what we can do, I think to push back is good. I mean, everyone can do what they can do. I think as a Christian, you got to see where you can push back and still be a Christian, because I mean, it's getting pretty serious.
We don't
People
want to
talking.
lose our salvation over it. So what does
No, you
that mean
don't.
to push back and still be a Christian? What is the conflict there to
Oh, there's
you?
people talking about physically removing the government.
Right.
But I mean, that's pretty much where we're at because the
I see those
protest.
kinds of things in the chatter, you know, but
Well, well, yeah. I mean, to go ahead and to protest is good, but you're going to need 3% of the population to rise up and to really, they have their agenda. They're just going to steamroll over top of everything, which you can see is going on right now, right?
yep.
Unless you can really just like have a huge amount of population go up right to the legislatures or whatever and put the fear of God into them, they're just going to continue on. And yeah, so it's not good. Um,
Here's the
I,
COVID-21 lethal virus 2021 official UK. Do we have that up there?
I did
Okay.
send you I did send you a screen grab of yeah, yeah. So anyhow, in that email, you know I gave it up to an 80% probability of possibly being correct. Now, when you go and look at all the different things that was said to have happened or to the timeline, we're right on track with it right now. So uh, we're going to go into this whole thing of more lockdowns, interprovincial lockdowns. No,
So
Trudeau
you don't think
himself is.
this is ending? You don't think that we're just going to turn around and, oh, glad we conquered that. Looks like we've got it under control. Let's get back to
No,
our
no,
lives.
absolutely not. No, this is a new normal. This is everything being locked down and everything else. That's a new normal. They they've been planning this thing for decades, and now with this COVID thing, they pulled the trigger. Like it's all in now, and so they're going to ride this thing. It's just going to be another virus or another thing, and ultimately it's going to go into it's right now you have to mask in order to protect grandma. You're going to have to go and be vaccinated in order to protect the common good or the common family, and from there it's going to be with this whole climate issue, you're going to have to go along with what they're saying to do with the climate issue. Otherwise, you're putting everyone at risk of being selfish. And no, this is full on, full tilt. And so, okay, so it's all kind of depressing stuff and not very fun. I mean, but what can we do? I would say that I mean, we could go ahead and start doing the protests and trying to do things politically, but I think we're beyond that. Like even at the end of 2019, I did a video talking about 2019 after the election and a recap. And about 22 minutes into that video, I said we could be entering into Revelation 13. And I was pretty, and that was before COVID hit.
So
Now
for
look at
those
what's
who
going
might
on.
not know Revelation 13, give a brief description of what that would be. I mean, that is, those who believe in such would declare this great book that I have here. We have a lot of prophetic words, that are said
Right.
to be coming to pass, and many that have already happened. And so when you say Revelations 13, if somebody's listening and they're like not really up
Yep.
on that, what would you say that is?
Well, okay, I did a couple of videos on it. You can go and see it has Big 66 on it's on YouTube. It's on if you do a search for my name, you can find the thing. But basically, the issue of Revelation 13 is that it's coming as a worldwide systematic economic issue where no man can buy or sell unless you go along with it. And you take the number of the beast or whatever, which is 666. And it gets into a really deep thing, but ultimately, we can see it right now. If you don't wear a mask, you're boycotted out of society, and this is worldwide. This is a worldwide phenomenon, and in order for Revelation 13 to happen, it is a worldwide thing. And the whole issue of climate change and saving Mother Gaia Earth or whatever is a worldwide thing. UN Agenda 2030 is a worldwide issue, and yeah, so now I definitely, I mean, the reason I made the 666 video is a lot of people were saying that they thought the vaccine was could be the mark of the beast, and for all the reasons that you've probably shared already on your show.
Right, which
And I'm
I do
saying
not
that
believe that this is the mark of the
no,
beast
no,
yet.
because it has to do with worship, right?
Yeah.
It has to do with worship. And really what it is whether you're a true Christian, born again Christian, or whether you are lost, or whether you are in, opposite of that, or just lost in Babylon, or whatever the case may be, those who are for and against. And the mark itself in the Bible is in Ezekiel chapter 8 and 9, also in Revelation 13. The mark is actually placed upon by God. God places his mark on you, and it's for the angels to know who's who. And it's an invisible thing. It's not like a tattoo or whatnot. But anyhow, so we're going into this. Number one, I'd say is, be a Christian. Make sure that you're not a foolish version. Try and be the smart virgin, in the parable. You want to be in John chapter 3, it talks about being born again Christian, where your whole life has changed radically, and you look to Jesus as being your savior. You can't save yourself, that kind of a thing. And you walk in the light that God has for you. Otherwise, you're going to walk in darkness. So keep on walking, as God shows you stuff, and he speaks to you in your conscience, a still small voice in the back of your head. You want to listen to that. And, nature talks to you in a sense, like the peacefulness of it. And the
Well,
Bible speaks to us. Well,
these seem like simple things, but in actual fact, when we are looking at the mental health problem that has come about, the mass psychosis, as one scientist referred to it, I believe it was last week that we had Ivor Cummins on, and we talked about mass psychosis. And if you want to begin to see how everybody is just changing and they're so afraid, and that fear has inspired a lot of like, crazy behavior. And what seems common sense to some of us, where we are the ones that are inviting the peace, and that is actually something that we have to strive for. And what you're talking about is, it might seem simple, but for anyone listening, in order to survive this, probably one of the greatest things that you can do is find that sense of inner peace inside of yourself, because and with your God, because there are many things we're not going to be able to control. I mean, Ron, do you think we've been outdone? Were we sleeping while the enemy was formulating plans against our country and our world?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a done deal at this point in time in my mind. People are hoping that Trump can still do a Trump card and do that whole Nasera, Gesera stuff and everything. I don't put much hope in that myself. And yeah, so it's
What do you think
you
about
know
these people that talk about, I mean, they believe in reincarnation? Charlie Ward, he believes in reincarnation, and, he's also, yeah, he's talking about Nasera, Jacera, but cloning and things like this that go out. Part of it is very alarming to me, not in that, body doubles are a different thing. They'll have body doubles for people that are famous, but there's a lot of talk, about cloning. And I think that there's aspects to science that we certainly don't know. We didn't know that they were working on a virus that could harm people. Anthony Fauci did know that in
yeah,
2015 when he used American dollars in order to fund this kind of research in Wuhan. So we know that there's a lot of different things, but there is also misinformation campaigns. And how affected have we been by the misinformation that has come against us recently, especially to do with the US election? I mean, there was a lot of misinformation here and there. I heard from all kinds of people about, what was
um,
going on. And it
oh
actually
yeah,
grieves my spirit, because people would have their hopes raised and then dashed. And I was sitting here trying to figure out what should I be sharing every day? Should I share, every idea that comes across my desk? Because there's a lot of them and they can't all be true, you know? So,
no, no,
Ron,
no.
there's disinformation, and we have to be so careful that we're actually trying to listen to what's right. And we're going to have to be careful to understand that our minds are sacred, beautiful places, and we can't allow our spirit to be destroyed in the middle of what you're saying. If
Right,
in
yeah.
fact
Well,
Davos is meeting for all kinds of great reset plans, okay, none of which we are in agreement with, but all of which our prime minister is going to force on us. So here we are, relatively unable to change much, other than
yeah,
what we could be doing is speaking more. And you talk about that, speaking
yeah.
more in your spheres of influence. However, there can be a price for that.
Well, there is. I mean, basically, that's the reason why I did the Revelation 13 proclamation at the end of 2019, because I see that as being the events are inevitable. We are in biblical times. This is a biblical thing going on. God's in control, but we're going to have to go through some heavy stuff coming up. I was telling people to brace for impact and look for your plan B. How are you going to be able to navigate through all of this? And that's why it's important to be a Christian and to ask God, even if you're not a Christian, like start talking to God and say, God, can you show me what I'm supposed to do, and what, how can I make myself, unvulnerable in this situation, and start listening to the still small voice in your conscience, and start walking in those ways. But so it's basically a situation now where I think we're heading into the final days of actually Earth's history, where Jesus is going to return again. And that may sound far out to a lot of people, but look what's going on in the world, and how 2,000 years ago there was, in Revelation 13, it says that no man may buy or sell unless you go along with the system. To have a worldwide system like that was never possible before computers and everything that's going on. Uh, so so it's interesting, you talked about Davos and whatnot. Okay, so remember Event 201, and then all of a
Yep.
sudden you had the virus. That's how they do it. They do their like even
They
in
plan it and then
9/11.
voila, it's here.
Yeah, you're let it, in during 9/11, what was happening is they were doing a simulation, actually a simulation drill of planes hitting the twin towers, and so the controllers didn't know if that was a drill or if that was actually something that was really happening. And all the fighter aircraft that are there to protect were all someplace else. It was all, so now we have Davos going talking about the economic reset, and yeah, so it's
Well,
interesting. We
the
should just
longer I live, I always say this, I don't know all the answers and I don't know what's true or not true. And I don't
yeah.
even know how to find that out, except you can read a lot of things. And when you start reading this and that, you go, wow, maybe, maybe that is happening. Maybe it is about that. And then you read somebody else's thing. And so I hear
Yeah,
you, Ron.
it's a lot of sifting through a lot of stuff. I get so much information sent to me, like you, right?
Yeah.
And you have to kind of wade through it. But I always contrast it to all of the decades of knowledge and study that I've had, and then I put it in the big picture and I see what's going on. And even with what's been going on with Trump and whatnot, that kind of had me going a little bit too, for sure. But as it sits right now, you've got it's unrestrained power now in the United States when the Democrats or whatever, they've got total control of the Senate and everything else, and the courts too are all kind of laden with the people they want in there too. So
I think, and I think something that everyone needs to be very, very concerned about who's probably watching this show. I'm pretty sure I have a few people that watch just to see what on earth I'm saying to try to get me, to try
yeah,
to, get me in some way. But most of the people watching this show are the ones who are awakened to the fact that we have a serious assault on our civil liberties. We have a serious assault on our ideological worldview. And that means
yes,
that they are making us the enemy. If we are conservative, if we are pro life,
okay,
if we believe that gender is male and female, if we
yeah.
dare to believe that the climate issue needs to be debated with scientists, that you can find plenty of them who are not buying into this, who are not part of the, some climate company that has been hired by the government to give I mean, you don't get money if there
Yeah.
isn't a problem, do you? You
It's all the boys club, yeah.
right.
So this goes back to 9/11, because when 9/11 happened, right away what happened was there was a new war. Do you know what that war was declared in
What?
9/11? Is a war on terrorism. The
Right.
United States declared a new war on terrorism. Not a country, right? We're not at war with Iran or some other country. It's terrorism. And around 2000, shortly after 2003 or whatever, it became clear to me that the American people are going to be the terrorists, right? It's us, and that's where we're at now. And I sent another link at it's the last email. I don't know if we can pull that up, but it was in a BC newspaper.
Okay.
Do you guys have that?
Sure, sure.
Okay, so
Well, it
I can
was
read it actually here. I can read it to you. It says this is from BC Magazine, May 3rd, 2007, by Richard Marcus.
okay.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Now I've been sharing this for a long time, but I'm a terrorist, says the Vatican. Well, it's finally official. Most of you might have had your suspicions, but now it's a definite yes. According to the Vatican, anybody who criticizes the Pope is now officially a terrorist. See, this is where it's all going, right? And so you're going to be a terrorist if you basically, um, go against any of this agenda. You're going to be a
Exactly
terrorist.
right. And this was my
Yeah,
first, the first thing that I shared at the top of this hour for anyone that's joining later, because we have quite a few more people watching now. But at the beginning, like this is what they're doing in the United States is basically if you were at the Trump rally on January 6th,
yeah,
you're a
oh yeah,
terrorist. And I know
yeah,
tons of people they're practically Democrats, but they were there. They wanted to see, and they're kind of actually leaning towards Donald Trump. So that day they went to see this epic event. Um, and so anybody, and they're calling these religious extremists. Is everybody hearing the shift? And we can't have that. And now, Ron, take that into Canada. Take that into what just happened to Derek Sloan. Take that into the Conservative Party of Canada, who now doesn't seem to be representing the opposition, who now seems to be, going along with, the isolation and the attack on someone like Derek Sloan, which has
Well,
angered the base, who
well,
were
good.
almost giving up
They
anyways.
they need to wake up because there's nothing conservative about the Conservative Party except for the name. They should, many people are calling it the Communist Party of Canada because that's really, they're going along with this UN globalism. They just make you feel good, make you think that, because it's conservative, the name, and you think no, forget it. No, it's a write off. But,
Well, it's very
uh,
scary to me with how the police are being used, and I do mean being used. They have to
oh yeah.
answer to their authorities. And so when you
Yeah,
speak against, yeah,
yeah, they're stuck, right? They're stuck, those
right.
guys.
And I think police officers are great people. I personally know police officers. I love them. They would take a bullet,
Oh,
hopefully
yeah,
for
yeah,
me, so I can be free.
yeah.
But no, I'm just kidding. They might be watching. But so I don't want to attack the police, and I also have had so many retired police officers who will say that the majority of these guys, they are freedom loving. This is who the state
Oh
says
yeah.
too,
No,
right?
yeah, they're stuck. I mean, yeah, they got their orders, and if they're going to keep their job and pay their mortgage, they're kind of, they're kind of hoping that you can beat it in court, I guess, basically. Yeah, but I'd like to quickly go on to this leaked email because this
Yes.
issue here where it says, I'm going to read it real quick here. It says, what we were told is that in order to offset what was essentially an economic collapse on an international scale, and I was expecting that way back in the 80s when 1987 stock market crash happened. I thought, oh no, not ready for this. But anyhow, so that the federal government was going to offer Canadians a total debt relief. This is how it works. The federal government will offer to eliminate all personal debts, mortgages, loans, credit cards, and I think also it's going to be the federal debt of the country and provincial debt. And all funding will be provided to Canada by the International Monetary Fund. If you want to know about that, yeah. Oh, what's his name? I can't think of it. Anyhow,
There's
I'm gonna get
someone good about
sidetracked.
that.
Yeah, I got so much information in my head. It's hard
I
to.
know.
Anyhow,
I know how
so
you feel. My head's
yeah,
exploding. My head's exploding every day when I go,
yeah,
okay, what do I focus on today? Because, I only got a little bit of
yeah,
time and, I know it's just crazy, but I
yeah.
hear what you're
I'll
saying.
keep on reading here. So
Yeah.
basically, International Monetary Fund that under what would be known as a World Debt Reset Program. Okay. This is back in October, I think, when this was leaked. In exchange for acceptance of this total debt forgiveness, the individual would forfeit ownership of any and all property and assets forever. The individual would also have to agree to partake in COVID-19 and COVID-21 vaccination schedule. And see, that's the first time I saw COVID-21, right? Which would provide the individual with unrestricted travel and unrestricted living even under a full lockdown. So, so
I know that
basically, yeah,
email and I know that it went around. Like to my knowledge, I've never known the source of that email
no,
to have been
no.
exposed. And so that was a
Yeah, I know
problem for me. I
it's
like to
sketchy. Yeah,
know
yeah.
who's writing these things. And yeah, I guess they could
No,
get in trouble if they're
yeah.
releasing it, but parts of it seemed very extreme, and yet
That,
we're living in
that
extreme
is
times.
that is extreme, and so I mean, we definitely, like Time Magazine did a whole issue on the Great Reset. Even the front covers the Great Reset, and so it's a big thing. It's a real thing. What it is going to actually be, we don't fully know, but they're talking about resetting everything, and I think
Well, on the good
that's why.
side, some people have said we're going to get our debts reset because there's been a lot of usury. So what's going
Yeah,
to happen is we might become all debt free.
yeah. Well, it's going to be spectacular, whatever it is. And if you don't want to go along with it, just remember that it's a corporation of Canada that's basically telling you to go along with it. So you can say no. And the rest of that email basically says that those who do not go along with it, and you can say no, and I think people should say no, is that they're going to basically say that you're a health risk and they're going to lock you away, and they'll take your assets anyhow. But still, I think to provide resistance by saying no, we're not going to go along with this reset. and
I
push
mean, did
back, right?
anybody think that Canada was going to become like this communist socialist country, the greatest? We've often said Canada, the best place in the world, like you can travel anywhere. Canadians are loved worldwide.
Yeah.
We're a great place. But that all of a sudden we've got a prime minister in. Now he's been in for a few years. He loves the way that, some dictators in the world seem to
Yeah.
operate. And now he's operating like one, increasingly, like moment, day by day. If you've got a vacation planned, you cancel that vacation. You want to travel
Yeah.
interprovincially, well, we're not recommending it. And wear your masks and lockdowns and everything.
Yeah. Well, he's just implementing UN Agenda 2030. Simple as that. Same with the premiers. Like they're that's all basically part of the show,
Do
and
you think
that's
that
where we're
Premier
going.
Horgan in our particular province, do you think that these premiers actually know they are playing into Agenda 2030? Or are they kind of misinformed and they're just listening? Because everything has an authority base, right? You got at the top,
Yeah.
you've got Prime Minister Trudeau, which he's not really at the top. We all know, like, Chrystia Freeland's probably really running the show. She's the brains behind the operation. And we have her
No,
being
she's not.
promoted. Right.
She's
She's
not
what?
actually. She's not the brains behind it.
No? Okay.
No,
Who do you think is? Because
it's a
it's
cabal
not
behind the
Trudeau.
scenes. No, it's those powers, the hidden powers that control all the political parties,
Yes.
except for the PPC and the Christian
Excellent. Except for
Heritage.
Maxime Bernier. And let's throw Rod
And
Taylor in there as well.
yeah, no, that's
Not
true. Yeah,
controlled, but nobody will vote for
and a
these
few other
people
ones.
because they believe they have to vote for the party that's going to get Trudeau out, which is not
Oh
working.
yeah, no, it's ridiculous because yeah, it was the conservatives that adopted UN Agenda 21 and 2030. So that's what we're under right now. If you vote for the conservatives, you're voting for your enslavement and the loss of absolutely everything in your life. And even in my campaign brochure, I said, "Has Bob Zimmer warned you about UN Agenda 2030?" I said, "Probably not." And that later on, I said that the Conservative Party is going to lead you into UN global occupation, basically.
And
So yeah,
I'm sad to say this. I was a conservative voter my whole life, but we're in serious times and everybody just shuts up about it. Everybody just gets all silent. And, it's like the party of our history and of our family. And
oh yeah,
instead of having critical thinking, and we're losing our country because we cannot critically think through what is going on. And I do
yeah,
understand hope that we can change it from the inside. But we all
yes.
know that the conservatives at this point have had a whole lot of people sign up to be delegates to their online conservative convention this year, and
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
freaking out. Why? Because the real social conservatives, the people who love life, who love Canada, who love freedom, they have signed up in record numbers and they want to be a part of the
Good.
process. But guess who doesn't
Yeah.
want that, right? The leaders of the Conservative Party.
Well, yeah, the people like look at what happened with Maxime Bernier and Andrew Scheer. There was a 7,466 extra votes cast than members and
They
they
barely
destroyed the
know that.
ballots
The
that night.
conservatives don't even know
They
that
don't
that
know that.
happened. They don't
No,
know
no.
that probably most likely Maxime Bernier, due to the machines, the
No,
counting
yeah,
machines, and I won't even say the
yeah,
name or nothing, and I don't know, but something went
yeah,
wrong, and when they had the leader, listen to me, everyone, when they had the leadership run between Andrew Scheer and Maxime Bernier that night, 7,466 votes. My friend Ron is telling the truth. There was
yeah,
too many votes, 7,466, too many votes as were on the voters list. And
yeah.
the auditors said, we have a problem. But everybody agreed that, it's so, I don't know why, but apparently it's not diplomatic. It's not politically correct to question a, an election of any kind.
Well,
I don't
the whole
understand
thing
that.
was,
Shouldn't that be the most
oh
accredited, the
yeah,
most, looked at part of our
sacred
whole
cow.
democracy?
Yeah, yeah. So it just goes to show you what's going on. It was a 1% difference between the two. Just that alone would make it so that you want to keep the ballots, but they destroyed them immediately. So you couldn't do a recount. It's just corrupt to the core. Come on, wake up, people. But
Corrupt
anyhow,
to the
so
core.
really, oh, it is.
Yep.
So the whole thing
And I'll
is,
tell you what, just before you go on, Ron, I want to hear what you have to
yeah,
say, but let's talk about Lindsay Lewis. You want a great conservative party. You want to bring everybody back to the fold, even Maxime Bernier, because Leslyn Lewis, I called her Lindsay, right? Yeah, Leslyn Lewis, and she is a lovely person. One of the things she said on the campaign trail was, "Hey, we would be able to invite those disgruntled members back." So what was this beautiful woman? She's pro-life. She is, she is sort of a middle of the road. Now, some people were not happy about her position on Paris Climate Accord and things like that. Okay, it's hard to get the perfect person, but I still don't think she was sold out totally to the 2030. And in actual fact, people are just, they're just now beginning to understand that somewhere way up here on the authority structure, on the, with all the oligarchs, they made decisions, right? That is funneling downward. And so not everybody knows, but once they get clued in, like Maxime Bernier, like Rod Taylor, I'm hoping, Derek Sloan, I believe, is right on board with this. But even Leslyn Lewis, during the, this last leadership run, the machines all suddenly had a meltdown. And I was online and we were talking about all of this. And she had done very, very well after the first round. So we don't know. We don't know. Well, it is corrupt to the core.
Well, even beyond the counting, look what they did. They made it so that they changed the rules. So I don't know exactly how to describe it now. I kind of forgot about it already. But basically, it was that you could have 150 people in a riding area over in Quebec or Ontario have as much pull as 1,500 votes over in Western Canada. So that basically killed it for Derek Sloan. Derek Sloan should have actually won, but he didn't because of the way they always manipulate things and change things and whatever.
It's like the Electoral College, I guess, in the States, right? We have that a similar
but
thing.
But they had changed. Yeah. Well, they had changed how the procedure was going to work. It wasn't just a vote was a vote. It had to do with ridings, and they changed how the whole system was going to work. They rigged it for the Eastern vote.
So what we keep doing is voting, even in the Conservative Party, you keep voting for those people that basically they just got to win certain areas, right?
Yeah, no. Well, it's all manipulated and controlled. Now, if you have an overwhelming situation of votes, so you can maybe beat it. But like I said, brace for impact. That's really, the cabal has control, and really, I'm surprised you haven't had a mental breakdown yet with all the information that. I mean, yeah. I have to admit, I've had to admit, maybe you have on the behind the scenes, but right. It is. I've had a serious hit. I've been following this stuff since the mid '80s, and I have to say, like 3 months after the election, I was just like, "What's wrong with Ron? He's just so bummed out,"
Yeah.
But the shields are down. I knew that it was over for Canada. Like it was just there's no hope now.
The shields are down and the masks are up.
Unless there's a miracle, right? And so I've had to come to grips with this whole issue that this is where we're going, and to face it, and to know that this is biblical. God's in control. He takes care of us no matter what happens. Even if we're martyred for our faith, eye has not seen nor ear heard, nor has even entered into the heart of men the things that God has prepared for those that love him, right? Yes. So eternal life and what God has planned is just absolutely mind-blowing. So we just have to be able to ride the storm and I think accept whatever's going to happen, but also ask God to show us what we should do. And some of the practical steps I would say is to, if you can, look towards getting out of the major cities, because those are the ones that are going to be, hit the hardest, I think. Like, I live in a small town, and it has been an oasis compared to the rest of Canada, and depending on how the town government works or the councillors or whatever.
What I don't like is the sheer nastiness that is being created in society. The nastiness.
Oh yeah, well that's everyone's being programmed by the
awful.
I think that the media is actually, it's almost like it has an occult, not occult, but it has a spirit behind it. And people are really being affected by it. And even myself, if I go and watch a CTV news thing and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, is that bad? And it's all manipulation and propaganda, but to see it constantly, because Joe Sixpack, he comes home, and he's worked hard, and he just wants to be able to figure out what's going on in life. So he turns on the news for 10 minutes, and all of a sudden he's assaulted by this stuff.
Oh.
And yeah.
And you
So
don't
I
get the
mean,
real stuff. You'll never hear Dr.
oh,
Bonnie Henry or Adrian Dix sort of giving the positive slant of the fact that, we're at like 50% capacity in the hospital. You don't
no, no.
hear them giving the positive thing that, unfortunately we are being hit hard in the senior sector, but we're taking these measures to protect them. But hey, good news is kids aren't affected. No deaths under 30, only
Oh
13
yeah.
under the age of
Oh
50.
sure. Yeah.
And
No,
let's
I
open up
don't
and
expect
let's
it.
be safe, and maybe we can put in a few things, but let's get those
No.
masks off and start breathing again. God forbid everybody's wearing masks outside now, Ron. It's like
Oh, I know.
they're
That's
fully indoctrinated, and they're giving
three
you dirty
three
looks
masks.
if you're not.
Three masks. You got to wear three, don't you know?
Three, exactly.
Yeah.
And be sure to wear them while having sex with your spouse.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, of course. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
don't
Oh
do positions where you might be face to face. I mean,
yeah.
seriously,
Oh,
like I'm losing when you say, why
I
haven't
know.
you lost your
Well,
mind? Yeah,
yeah.
sometimes I just go, oh my gosh, I cannot believe what's in here. It was bad enough that
Well.
Dr. Teresa Tam was telling us, to wear masks while we had sex. But in any case,
Oh yeah.
Ron, I mean, we have
Well,
to sift
yeah.
through the nuttiness and maintain our brains at this time.
That's actually good that Teresa Tam started going off the wall, with all the stupid stuff she was saying, so that people can actually maybe wake up if they hear it. But anyhow,
Come
so
on, everyone, wake up, right?
okay, so basically the thing you're talking about mental attitude. Now, I've taken a severe hit just because I just know what's going on, and it's just like it's
You
incredible.
struggle.
So yeah, so I still struggle too at this point in time, but I've kind of just released and let it go.
Good.
And I kind of just try and live, day by day and enjoy. If I go for a walk, I enjoy the sunshine and the
Yeah.
snow or whatever. You guys don't have snow there, but the, and just try and ask God to, because really I had everything kind of figured out over the decades. I'd built my country property. I had it. This is back in the 90s. I was preparing
You
for all this
probably grow
stuff.
your own food, right?
Well, I did back then.
Yeah.
Right now I'm in town. It's all been so prolonged now, but I
Right.
want to get out of town myself.
Good.
But what's coming is so overwhelming, and they have it all so planned out that all the gates are going to be closed, and the only way to really deal with it is by having God lead and guide you, because otherwise you're just a
Absolutely.
sitting duck. And so just know that no matter what happens, that God is in control. Accept the fact that the ship's going down. It's just the way it is, and we can try and save it, but and that's good. I don't, I think it's good for us to push back, and that's why I ran in the federal election. Like, I knew the ship was going down anyhow back then, but I thought with this new hope of the PPC that we could maybe push back and we could delay it, right?
Well, let's
But
hold
when
out
we,
for hope. I mean,
yeah, well,
let's
yeah,
hold out,
yeah.
Rod, together for some kind of miracle.
Well, well, the hope is that the second coming's happening probably in the next,
And
I don't
that's,
know, just
yeah, and I think that's what gives us a lot of peace, is that no
yeah,
matter what, we know that there's a big plan, that there's a lot of prophetic words. So we're good, whatever
yeah,
happens. But I do hope for a reprieve, for something to overturn. But maybe it's not about that. I have had to come to
well,
that, conclusion. Perhaps this is really about people waking up and getting their hearts and lives right so that they are okay for eternity, because we seem to thrive and to grow spiritually when we're under pressure and when we have
yeah.
persecution. So all of a sudden everything is being shaken, and we don't have our
It is,
churches and we
yeah,
don't have all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
So
It
maybe
is a
we're
shaking
now
right now.
concentrating.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so look at it from God's perspective. God is love. Not that he loves or that he can love, but is love. That's the whole embodiment of the entity there. And that what he wants the most is that we all shall be saved. And so in order to wrap things up on Earth's history for an actual second coming of Christ, it has to be a worldwide event that brings forth this issue. And so with what's going on right now, it is worldwide. And if, in fact, we basically are stripped of our property and we are brought into this kind of system that they want us to bring us into, it's going to wake up everyone, right? So
Yes.
even
And
though,
that's not
even
a bad
though
thing.
yeah, even though we're going to go through some pretty hard stuff, if we just, let it go with and let God, kind of a thing. And then many people who weren't really, like they were just distracted by all the different things, with sports or whatever their thing they're caught up in or whatever, all that's being stripped away. And we're just basically going to be just kind of naked in the sense that here we are and we're very vulnerable and this system is going to take us down. And the only hope that we have is basically a supernatural one, a God one. And so a
Uh,
lot of people
and he's
actually, I
good
think,
at
will
that.
wake up.
He's good at
Well,
that.
and so this is what we're going through, I think. And so it's going to be a pretty rough ride, but know that, it's all for good in one sense, right?
I love
It,
it.
yeah.
I,
So
I love it,
So
and
God's
I do
waking us
believe
up.
I like your if we left it on a positive note, it would be that we have the hope of the supernatural. And Ron, God's the kind of God that He let Lazarus really die. I mean, 4 days
Oh, yeah.
in the
Yeah.
grave, there's no hope. People are mad. Like when Jesus showed
Yeah.
up, Martha was ticked. Like, where were you when my brother
Yeah.
was
Oh, yeah.
dying? Where were you? She
Exactly.
thought it
Yeah.
was too late. But he did show up with a miracle. And with one sentence, he changed and resurrected everything. And so we do have that hope. We do have that hope. And I think that's what we cling to at this time.
Well, all throughout the Bible, God brings his people into what I call the impossible zone. It's like when they were brought to the Red Sea and the Egyptian army was going to go and decimate them, and how are they going to cross the sea? It's impossible. And so many things in our life, God will, to the Christian, as you walk with God, you'll find that God brings you into these or allows these impossible zones where all of your
I've
human
had it.
striving,
I've had the
all of you,
impossible zones.
yeah, yeah,
I've
yeah,
seen
you
him
started.
work. I've
Yeah,
seen God
yeah,
do upside down crazy, including
yeah.
physical
Well,
healings,
that's
emotional healings.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, he brings us into the zone so that we cannot rely upon our human efforts, our strategies or anything else like that. We have to rely wholly upon God for our salvation or for this thing to work out. The whole thing in the Bible is that all the people who were healed because of their faith. Faith is, the bottom line that we have to have, that we cannot trust ourselves and we have to trust God for our soul salvation. God saves us. We can't save ourselves. Simple as that. And so this is where all of this is leading, that we're going to be in a situation, and it's going to be stressful for sure for all of us. But I mean, in the end, I mean, to have eternal life that is just so, like no more hate, no more war. Everything is, peace and
This
love.
all ends
Everyone cares.
well. This ends
It
well.
does. It,
It's
it
just
does.
today.
It's just
Yeah.
kind of a rocky road, and
It's
we
a
have to
rocky road
accept.
right now.
So I've accepted the fact that the ship's going down, the shields are down, and like all the things that I was hoping that we could fight against are going to happen. And
I love
I
it. Hey,
still,
Ron.
I still put up a fight.
Yeah.
Okay, I still have my YouTube channel, and I
You're
still
still
do what
trying
I can.
and you're
I'm
speaking
still
the truth.
trying. Yeah, but we got to wrap it up. Yeah. Okay, so that's it. Just
Well,
like
Ron,
don't
thank
get
you
stressed
so
out.
much. Thanks for giving me so much time too. I know that you're busy, but I love talking to you so much, and I appreciate your perspective on all these things. And I hope everybody's going to be watching this Davos thing that's happening. Try to listen behind the scenes to what to what is being said, and understand and discern with your heart, about what is right. So thank you so
One,
much, Ron.
one quick thing. I'm going to be
Yep.
posting a couple of videos coming up on the Great Reset.
Okay.
I have to wait till I can get back on YouTube because I had my second strike there. But I think probably this weekend I could probably post some of it.
Good.
But check that out. All right. Okay. Well, thanks a lot, and
Bless
best to
you,
you.
Ron. Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.
Thank you so much for being a friend. Take care. I lost another YouTube channel last night. So, just, I don't know. Like, who can figure there was, I think actually it was reposting a video that had been posted before that had over 300,000 views. I think that that's what they got mad at. So they're getting tougher and tougher, is what's really happening. I like you guys so much. Thank you for spending all this time with me. Laura Lynn live at protonmail.com. You can reach me. You can send me your stories. You can tell me what's going on in your life. And we're going to get through this together. I want you to know that I really believe that You got time for just 2 minutes, just for 2 minutes to give God Almighty a little reading of His Word? You got that kind of time? This is only going to take a minute. This is what the Lord Almighty says. Now, this is out of Haggai 2, okay? This is what the Lord Almighty says. In a little while, I will once more shake the heavens and the earth, the sea and the dry land. I will shake all nations, and what is desired by all nations will come. And I will fill this house with glory, says the Lord Almighty. The silver is mine and the gold is mine, declares the Lord Almighty. The glory of this present house will be greater than the glory of the former house, says the Lord Almighty. And in this place I will grant peace, declares the Lord Almighty. How many times can they say the Lord Almighty in there? Do you know what? You think He's mighty? I think He's mighty. I think what they're trying to say is, it is God, the Lord Almighty. And I love that. And in this place I will grant peace. There's a lot of prophecies about what's coming. There's a lot of things that have been said about what we have to face, but every single one of them, at all times, God has peace for us. He does not want us to be full of anxiety. Even in Matthew 24, when He says all of these things must come to pass, let not your heart be troubled. Let not your heart be troubled. Be at peace about all of these things. And that's what we do here every single day. We talk about the peace of God. We talk about things that are really happening. And if there is anything that you can do in the natural, it might be to prepare, to make sure that you're comfortable, that if there's something financially you can do to sort of secure yourself, maybe you would do that at this time. And I guess pray for Trudeau. Pray for him, because he does not have the mind of God at this time. And I fear for that, because for him, because God is a good God and He's a just God. And when you hurt people and you have been placed in charge of people, what He's doing is hurtful to the country. His investment into abortion, His investment into ideologies and perspectives that don't really have a basis in common sense, but rather is for an agenda, and so he can be on boards and be important because it's politically correct. That's a problem. That's a problem. So pray for him, because God is watching. God is watching all of us. Thank you very much for being with me. I love being here with you, and I thank you that you'll spend this time every day listening to some advice and getting through it together. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow. To deliver the truth of what our sick world is doing, but for some of us, we feel that we have no choice. Because if we are silent about these abominable things, then we are letting evil go unchecked, and we cannot do that. For those of you wonderful people who are writing me and are sharing your encouragement, I am deeply grateful. Thank you for all the letters that you've been sending. Thank you for the donations and the support. I found out that in order to speak the truth, you have to become very, very strong. If you would go to my website at www.lauralyn.tv, you'll find all of the ways that you can contact me. Remember, my friends, all is well. All is well.